everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's good to be here. Today I'll be reacting to a video, the Star Spangled Banner, as you've never heard it. So without further ado, let's dive right into it.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story.
Matter of fact, like what this guy just said, it doesn't matter what country you come from. I know there's always a story behind the national anthem, and when people sing the national anthem, I think most of the time people do not really know the reason or listen to the words carefully as they sing. I just kind of feel like, oh, it's an obligation, let's just sing it. But those words actually carry, I feel like they're like very heavy words, well thought of before written, and they actually stand on behalf of a country. So there's always a story behind this. I'm not an American, but I'm always interested in historical stories for educational purposes and just for my own knowledge to learn more about the world and other countries at large. So this is going to be so interesting, and I'm anxious to watch it and check this out.
Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials, and they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men.
Oh my God.
And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort.
Now, first of all, like I said, I'm always very interested in historical stories like this. Most times when I listen to these things, you actually feel like you're just hearing like some fictional stories, but these are like real stories. I don't know how true or how accurate this story might be, but it's quite interesting to know how a national anthem comes about. All the fight, all the things that happen behind the scene, kind of. Today, people sing national anthem, they see the flag, but there are people, or there were people who actually stood to make this thing come to reality. So sometimes when we sing the national anthem and then we take it for granted and just sing it haphazardly, carelessly, not thinking deep about the words. It's always good to actually listen and be serious when singing the national anthem, just so that the lives of people who were lost then would actually mean something while you sing. So it's kind of interesting, all that goes behind all of these things.
It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag?
Wow.
Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling. Every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb. And Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are...
It's so amazing the kind of power these flags actually hold. It kind of gave the hope to those people down there, knowing that the flag still stands. It felt like they were still conquering, they were still winning, and there was still hope for them. So it's so surprising the kind of power the flag actually holds. I know in lots of countries, sometimes they fly the flag halfway when they lose people, like prominent people or veterans or military personnel. I think sometimes they fly it halfway. It holds a lot of power because there's always, I feel like, a story behind that flag. All the colors and everything. So like people's sweats, people have suffered, people have sacrificed themselves for this flag to stand. So hearing them say, is the flag still standing? It's like a hope. If the flag had fallen, I think maybe the hope would have been lost. Like, okay, they've conquered. But with the flag still standing, it gave them the hope that they would be free. So it's so interesting how powerful the flag actually really is.
They're insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down.
It's like sacrifice.
He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds.
Wow.
The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when hit had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died.
The flag must not fall.
Their bodies were removed and others took their place.
Sacrifice.
Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid."
Wow. That was really interesting. I've heard the American national anthem over and over. I always love the way it sounds. The words are really powerful. I really didn't know the story behind the national anthem. It carries so much power. Thinking about the lyrics, when I say the lyrics now, the words of this national anthem and the story I just heard, there's so much, there has been so much sacrifice. It actually means a lot. It carries a lot of weight and meaning, those words. And that's why I feel whenever one is asked to sing like a national anthem, that person takes it seriously and ponder upon the words and people who wrote, who made this reality come true, so that you listen to it and remember all the lives, all the sacrifice people had to hold that flags. Wow, this was really a powerful story. I don't know how truthful or accurate it is, but it's really, really inspiring. And I think people should really listen and hear it, so next time when they sing, they know how much weight or how much power a national anthem actually carries. Not just the American national anthem, maybe from other countries as well. It's a serious business when you are asked to sing national anthem anyway. No wonder at every event in lots of places you are asked to sing the national anthem, because it stands. It's amongst the history of that country, of that nation. So it carries so much power and so much weight. I'm actually learning a lot because I'm so interested in history and it's educational for myself. And so I'm actually really enjoying this, and I really want to learn more. So in case you need me to check out more of this kind of videos, historical videos and all, please do leave it in my comment section. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you on my next video. From me, it's bye. Stay blessed.